To be honest, I don't know how to charge this without shooting it.
And I fell. Bounties. But he's dead for right now, so he's gonna leave us alone now.
Alright, well, if I kill you, it's not my fault.
I don't believe that for a minute.
Oh, my armistice zone privileges are revoked.
No, it looked like I got hit by my own ship when I was getting out of the seat.
Another NPC. Yep, he's dead. Oh, no, he ran away. Welcome, everybody. I'm DarkHour717, and this is our latest episode of State of the Verse, where myself and J-Scale, as well as a couple guests from Amarok's Fang org, go over the latest and greatest news throughout Star Citizen, PU, and the current patch, as well as different sources such as Star Citizen Live and Roadmap Roundup, and of course any other information that they put out there through the Inside Star Citizen and such. This week, actually, we have a lot of information. We had the PU monthly report come out, as well as the Squadron 42 monthly report, jump points available. So we'll be going over a lot of these items, but a lot of them you're going to want to take the time to go out and read if you get those emails or you have the subscriber to get really the in-depth background info and everything that we're talking about. All right, so this week we actually have Mandolinean, who is a longtime member of Amarok's Fang, joining us this evening, as well as TheBrightShadow, who is one of our org members as well for quite some time and has a specialty in knives. Usually doesn't stab me in the back, but he definitely will stab me in the front over and over again. I'm sure you've seen his handiwork in some of our videos. So what's going on, guys? How's everybody doing?
Good evening, Dark.
Hey, doing pretty well.
And J-Scale, how's your weekend been?
It has been decent.
And of course, all those who have noticed Mandolinian's got a little bit of crackly going on there. So those who love bubble wrap, eat it up while you can. He's available on Cameo for a very, very inexpensive fee. All right, so yeah, I'll pay in advance. All right, so we had, of course, 3.14.1 this week. It's been a Xenothreat all throughout the week, and it's been definitely shaky. We got the rewards. There's been some controversy on those rewards of being reskins of reskins. I'm sure a lot of people have seen a lot of the videos put out by Board Gamer, Salty Mike, and such in regards to that. Of course, I think one point that people overlook is that if you got that birthday Lamont suit and obsidian helmet and all that, great, you've got it. Nobody else can get it because you were in at that time. But people that have joined since then and don't have it, this is new to them. I think that's definitely, I can understand people's disappointment in the reskin, but for those who have joined fresh and haven't had the chance to get those yet, it is good for them, I think, definitely. But of course, the big thing, and I think Bright, you and J-Scale both brought this to my attention, that with the rep, to get those prizes, you don't have to completely fill all of Tier 3 on the rep for that. If you're in Tier 3 when the event ends, which of course that's running through the 7th of September, then you're going to get those rewards. So what are your guys' thoughts on the rewards?
Right, and I just want to mention that's exactly how it works for all rep in the normal PU as well. Anytime, as soon as you enter a tier, you don't have to fill it out. You already have the advantage of that tier. As for the reward, I like light armor, but I found a lot of people don't like to wear light armor, and because these are light armor pieces, a lot of people kind of feel like, this is not something I even care about.
Yeah. Did you guys see a lot of the controversy over people being upset about it?
I didn't, but I understand why. It does just feel like a reskin. It doesn't feel like there's anything special about it. Like there's no different stats for it. It's the same. I mean, whatever undersuit you've got on, it's going to be the same as all the others. there's a helmet and a chest piece as well.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't know. Unless there's something fancy about it, I'm not killing myself to get it. How's that?
Yeah, and of course, I mean, the Lamont suit's been given out. Birthday. There's other times that you've gotten the Lamont suit. Right now, I've got two of them in two different shades, and this is going to be another one with the CDF kind of emblem or something like that on it. But yeah, it is a reskin. I mean, me personally, if they want to give me anything free, I'll take it. Doesn't mean I'm going to use it, but I'll take it. I'll throw it in the collection, or I'll give it away to somebody in the org. You know, a lot of my stuff, a lot of my subscriber flare and stuff like that, I usually end up handing out at some point. But yeah, I mean, it is. It would be nice to think if there was something unique and special towards just Xenothreat itself, but at the same time, I do kind of think along the lines that, there are people who haven't had that opportunity to get this. So to them, it's new. To us, being that we've been in for so long, it's I can definitely understand the slight disappointment in it.
I think
So
they're gonna have some long term, up with a lot of unique content, for these events. If the events, turn out to be as frequent as, we hope.
well, yeah, I mean, they've
So
definitely said that dynamic events are going to be basically, the way of the future. I mean, we're looking at Jumptown 2, which we've talked about in the past, where we've seen Nine Tails and we've seen Xenothreat now in its second iteration. Of course, this week it's been really, really shaky. There were a few nights there where no matter what server we got on, it never either finished phase 2 or it never progressed into phase 3, or when it did, it stalled halfway through. Now, I got in after the hot fix that they did on Friday, and I had no issues. I was able to play through, got onto the server, they said everything finished out fine. We went through another playthrough, myself and a few other people from the org, and got through it with no issues. But Bright, you said you had another experience.
Yeah, I jumped on Friday night after you had gotten off, I believe, and I jumped into a server. It was already, I think, into phase 2. I jumped onto my 600i, to take on the Idris, and then the Javelin spawned, and nothing else came after the Javelin. The thing didn't progress. People were floating around the Javelin, wondering what's going on. So I don't know if they've fully fixed it. There might still be a few glitches in there.
Yeah, and that's what we were seeing obviously before the hot fix was the failure to launch the 30Ks, the freezing in the middle phase 2 or phase 3. So there was some hope there that hot fix fixed it, but it didn't. Of course, we're also seeing the standard bugs that we've mentioned every week for the last 3 to 4 weeks with just the patch in general. That's going to be the infinite load screen. That's still a present and consistent issue. Usually when we get in on stream, we usually have 1 or 2 people at least that are getting locked up there at the load screen. The waking up phased into the floor or the bed, which is a fairly regular occurrence as well too. And it's happened multiple times throughout our org members on streams. And of course, I don't think that we're ever going to see the end of the gamer tag issue where you got everybody at the beginning, but somewhere along the line you lose people here and there, and you got to disband the party and send everybody new invites to get everybody's gamer tags back. So, I mean, these are definitely ongoing things. So, I guess we'll just keep our eye on it with 315 coming down the line. We'll see if any of that improves. But, I mean, the infinite load screen's been going on for at least a year. I would think at least 9 months to a year, if I remember correctly. I mean, they gave us those free freelancers for a while back to take care of the issue, to do a workaround with that. And when they took those away, thought they had it all locked down and fixed, but obviously it's still going on. So, any other bugs you guys are seeing though?
This morning, I think it was, for Xenothreat, it was one of those situations again where, the thing was stalled and the Javelin was like, you could see through it. Like it was missing some panels on it. So it's almost like it just didn't instantiate completely. And, I did like an issue council report on it and everything, but yeah, I was having, I think I jumped probably a half a dozen or more servers this morning before I found a working Xenothreat, and it was just in phase 3 at that point. But
Yeah.
last night, ironically, the very first one that I jumped on got to play straight through all 3 phases. And that was a blast. I mean, I really.
Oh,
that
when
was-
it
that was really
works,
awesome.
it's absolutely amazing. That's for sure.
Yeah, I just want to mention about the gamer tags too.
Oh,
I find
Hold on
that
1 second. I just have to make an adjustment. OBS. Okay, start that over there, Bright.
also on the gamer tags, I just want to throw out that the worst bug with that seems to be when people join after the group is already formed. I always experience this bug when I'm joining after you guys are already in the game, and I join the team, and then only like 1 or 2 people show up, and then others can't see my tag either. So I think that's part of what makes it worse.
Yeah, and I agree with you because obviously with the streams and when I'm playing off stream and all that, that's usually when it's most prevalent is when somebody's joining after we're already in the server. So definitely agree with you on that one. I mean, the one thing, and this is going back to what Mando said about being able to get in and play through, but Xenothreat is a great time if you can get that server. So, but keep an eye out. Also, don't forget to throw in some comments there if you see some bugs that we don't mention here. We definitely want to hear from all of our viewers. So make sure you reach out to us and let us know what you see. And if you got some issue council reports that we can contribute to, definitely feel free to let us know through the comments on the video, and we'll be happy to contribute or at least confirm and verify those for everybody out there. This week, no roadmap roundup. This is, we've gone every other week now over the roadmap roundup, so nothing this week. Now getting into the in-depth news, and this is where we're going to get into a lot of the detailed information on everything. And we're going to start with Insight Star Citizen. I actually enjoyed this one because obviously I am a fanboy of all the ships, and it was a little bit disappointing in that it went over some of the ships I expected it to, but they didn't really tell us anything about any of the ships that they haven't said anything about. But we know CitizenCon is coming up, and we know they're holding back a lot of information for announcements at CitizenCon. But we had the gold standard for the Gladius, and that is complete with minor fixes due in 3.15. The Saber Gold standard is going to be coming in 3.15. And of course, the Drake Vulture. This thing, I have this, and I think it's going to be really great when they bring the salvage in. Looking at the white box on it and everything, it looks like it's going to be a great ship to have. They finished that white box and it's in the art review phase. They're working on the interiors. They've got the entrances worked out. A lot of great information out there on the Vulture. But the nice thing is that they kept it pretty much close to the concept. I don't know what you guys think as far as that goes.
I think it's great. I think the coolest thing was when John Crews said that it'll be coming online sometime next year alongside ship-based salvage.
Yeah, and a lot of people have been waiting for that ship-based salvage.
Yeah.
So. I love the name that they chose, of course, the Drake Vulture. It just makes you think of, somebody coming in after the battle to take what scraps they can get.
Pick
and
the
run
carcasses.
Off. Exactly.
Mando, you got a Vulture, or are you looking at doing any salvage? Or are you just going to ride along with others to go that route?
I'll probably start off just riding along with others. We got a lot of folks in the group that stay up to date on all the ships, and I kind of lag behind a little bit. But I think the salvage is going to be really fun. It's going to be really useful in our org too because we board a lot. So
I can have you fly my reclaimer while I take the Vulture out. How's that?
That's great. I mean, I think that we should try to recycle as much as possible. That's just kind of.
Well, you guys know as much as I crash, you'll have plenty out there to scrap and make some money off of me.
I hope that this means that we'll actually get to use the hand torch now to break through metal and get into the carcass of these ships.
Yeah, and they did mention that, and they're talking about with the Vulture that's going to be the first version of ship-based salvage, but we also know that, what they call Tier 0 salvage was also supposed to be that cutting torch, like what you're talking about. And they've brought that up before in the past.
And that's in 3.16 right now.
So, but yeah, I mean, you're going to have that ship base, and then you're going to have the on foot based. And we know that they've talked about salvage in many different ways being on foot. You can cut things up and take different things out of ships and everything. Obviously, that's going to be key when it comes to being able to sell those things, make some AUEC, especially if they're going to incorporate it into the derelicts that they talked about a couple weeks ago. I think that's going to be interesting. And I think that'll play a big part into that wider scope that they said they want the derelicts to play, other than just being a point of interest.
Yeah, I think that another game loop I'd like to see them incorporate with that is the ability to like salvage something, but then also repair it.
Yeah.
And just kind of put it in an image.
Well, I mean, I know that we've talked in the past, on streams and all that at some point, and I'm hoping that this is still an intention of them, that once the game goes out of alpha and goes live, and gets a full release, that orgs are going to be able to go out and search for portions and different sections of the bangle. And over time, if you do everything right, you'll be able to put a bangle together and have it for your org. Now, whether that's still the game plan, I don't know. But that is something in the past that has been passed around as a possible future gameplay.
Shipbuilding would be an amazing feature.
Oh, yeah, that definitely would be. And of course, we got the Crucible, which is going to be able to do repairs and everything like that. So that's all going to, incorporate each other into that one skill and make it a huge loop, I'm sure.
I bet the way they've talked about repair in the past, it's going to work like healing, where the stuff that we have the ability to repair with, whether it's a handheld tool or the Vulcan or the Crucible, you're not necessarily going to be able to return the ship back to like kind of brand new. You're going to have to go somewhere like a shipyard or something.
Yeah, you'll be able to get it to be able to limp its way somewhere.
Yeah,
this might eventually be used for the scrap that you can buy and sell. That's kind of worthless.
Yeah.
I kind of imagine that eventually you'll just build up scrap reserves from your Vulture scavenging, and you'll use that scrap to do repairs.
Have a bunch of Bondo ships running around.
So Drake ships, you mean?
Even Origin ones, right?
Hey, is there a version of Gorilla Tape in the verse somewhere that I can find?
Not yet.
Do repairs on my Caterpillar at all?
Not yet.
Also, many different things. Jasko, why don't you tell us about what we found out about the Redeemer there?
It's approaching final art, which in their ship pipeline is I think he was saying that was the end. They're getting the end is getting it ready for in-game release, but this is like I guess the last step before that. So they're working on cockpit buttons, remote turret bays, the component room, and final polish of the lower deck. I think I already mentioned that piece. Yeah, they are getting a game release ready. So sorry, I missed that part. And they were showing video of it, and he was highlighting the fact that it still has the Nutcracker wings. They had to adjust some of the angles and whatnot to make it look right.
Yeah, I think they elongated it a bit.
Yeah, they had to stretch it out so that they could get the kind of the center of gravity and the proportions to look proper, I guess. And then he went into an explanation that was I felt like it was kind of stunted a little bit, but he talked about how it was originally a 3-person dropship. It was featured heavily in Squadron 42, but as they evolved Squadron 42, it was replaced by the Hoplite and then ultimately by the Valkyrie because it just didn't fit the role. And now it's a 4-person gunship. And because of that, it requires much beefier components. So trying to fit all that stuff in the ship was apparently a tough job for them.
Yeah, because go ahead.
I was just gonna say, but he emphasized that they tried to stay true to the original concept art.
Yeah, and we know that the concept art was originally a contest from way back when, that the Redeemer is actually the only backer designed ship. And of course, they've adjusted it to fit into the game and kind of be a little bit more ageist, but it has that still kind of look and feel to what the original concept was. And
go ahead.
I was going to say, and originally the person that concepted it, if I understand correctly, or if I remember correctly, it was originally supposed to be a combination drop/gunship. And then they've kind of slid it over to just being that gunship rule for the reasons that you mentioned.
And an old literature on the Javelin I believe it was the Javelin. It said that one of the in a hangar bay on it, it could fit a Redeemer in it.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm wondering if they had to adjust things so that it now fits the Valkyrie.
Yeah, I mean, it's very possible. I mean, we saw it at Invictus on the floor in Invictus, so it's not a small ship by
No.
any means whatsoever. So, I mean, that's got to be a pretty hefty hangar.
Yep.
I think height-wise and everything, it was pretty similar to the Valkyrie. I don't think the
Yeah.
Valkyrie's definitely wider, obviously.
Yeah.
The length of the Valkyrie is pretty long, so I would imagine that they're fairly similar in length and height, but the width would be the big determining factor there. But I think a Javelin's so damn big that it doesn't matter how wide you make it. You could probably have an Eclipse in there with the wings down and not hit anything.
Yeah. We'll see.
I wonder how they're going to balance the Redeemer. I wonder if because they're trying to fit so much and such big components and they have so little extra room, if that lack of extra room equates to lack of extra hull HP.
Like a glass cannon.
It could be. I'm not sure.
It
Once you
could
take
be.
the shields down.
I can't say I've seen anything about any advanced armor on it or anything.
No.
I mean, not like what the Ares has been reported to have and such. But then again,
No,
I
'cause-
mean, the Valkyrie doesn't have advanced armor either.
No.
And we know that that thing can take a pounding pretty well.
The Valkyrie kind of looks thicker, though. Like it looks like it's got some thick plating on it.
Oh, she's a beefy girl. Yeah, she is. I love that ship, though.
Mm-hmm.
I only got one gun when I'm flying it by myself, but I will fly the hell out of that thing because it is a great ship.
I just wish they didn't close the top, the crew quarter area. Put some glass or something up there.
Yeah. So, but I'm me personally, I'm excited about the Redeemer. It's the first ship that I bought that was still in concept when I got into the game, and I've been waiting for this thing for 2 years now, and I'm excited to finally see it and see what it can do. So I think that's a very welcome addition in what we're going to see, and they've even increased the size of the guns on it because of that more gunship style versus the dropship it was originally supposed to be looking at. So moving on, we got the Ares that's going to be coming out to 315 as well too, and definitely some beautiful, beautiful flying gun here. This thing I am excited about. 315 is going to be bad for me because we got the A2, we got the Ares, we got the Redeemer. I'm not going to know what ship to take out and when I want to take it out. And thank you, doggies, for shaking your faces. Baxter and Bailey have to get their words in. They love the Ares too. So this thing looks amazing. I think the only thing with this that I really worry about is the Inferno's ammo capacity. But where it's at right now is they did the visual effects pass completed on the size 7 weapons. They're towards the end of Gray Box, crossing into final art. And of course, they had kind of similar issues with the Redeemer, trying to figure out the component access, because the initial concept, they kind of just blocked it in, but now they need actual access to be, because these things are going to be swappable and repairable at some point. So they had to kind of work with the component access points throughout the ship. And the ship entry needed to be kind of sorted out in place, and the placement of the guns so it doesn't block your view. And you know what? I'd rather, with my head tracking working, I'd rather just look to my right and watch that thing fire. I don't care if I can see anything off to the starboard side. I want to see the flame shooting out of that big size 7 Gatling gun. That's all I care about.
As you crash into the capital ship you're shooting.
I die a happy man. Watching that gun go off. I mean, this thing is a gun with wings. That's all it is.
Yeah.
It's, I think, going to play a big part if you use them properly. It's not going to be a, end-all, be-all killer of capital ships. You're going to have to use them in conjunction with the sister ship with the Ion, as well as other attack ships to take out capital ships efficiently. But if you really want to mess with somebody in your org, and while they're down, driving an Ursa across and come down out of the sky in that thing and take them out with that size 7 gun, you're going to have some fun.
Right, they're advertising it as sort of the capital ship killer, but I do wonder if you're actually going to want to use it in a lot more situations than that.
Oh, I think you absolutely will. I mean, not only for the fun factor, but just, for the utility factor. Um, if you look at the ability, once the capital ships do come in, being able to launch it off a Kraken or take it off of a Idris, because I believe the width of it should probably fit into, hopefully, the Idris hangar. I think you're going to find that this is actually a fairly utility fighter. You're going to be able to use it in different situations. And in something like Xenothreat, I just see this thing would have the ability to mop up against the Xenos.
Right, which kind of brings the question of how they're going to balance this versus a normal fighter. Is it going to be less maneuverable than a normal fighter? Is the projectile speed going to be significantly slower, and that's going to be the problem? I'm curious how it's going to end up shaking out that way, because otherwise, I almost feels like the one fighter you want, because a size 7 weapon damage against another fighter is huge.
Oh yeah, I mean if you're looking at a Gladius or a Saber, it's one shot, one kill practically. But my fear is that that's how they're going to balance it out. Is here you go, you get 500 rounds, so you get a 2-second trigger pull, and you're going to be out of ammo on the Inferno, or you're going to get one shot every 5 to 6 seconds on the Ion because it has to recharge. We know that there's a lot of people are a little disappointed with the recent changes in the capacitors. I've gotten a little more used to it, but some people are really salty about the capacitor changes and with what it's done to the ammo counts. So, and we know it's not the final iteration of that, but it will have changes down the line. But you're not going to send out an A10 Warthog with 500 rounds to take on a tank battalion.
I think that's. I think your comment about the capacitor stuff, the power management gameplay, it was more than just nerfing the guns. They spoke a lot about how they want to put every ship in the intended role. They want it to perform in that space that they envisioned for it. So I think with the Ares, it's more like a heavy interceptor. Like you would use this to go take out an A2 before it bombs your base. Or maybe you're going to take out some tonks that are on the field because you can deliver some pain, but you're not necessarily going to go toe to toe with an Arrow or a Gladius or a Warden. Those are more combat dogfight type things where I think these are flying cannons, as you said, and they're meant for going after bigger fat targets that are slow moving and easier to hit.
Yeah,
because you do have that one cannon.
Yeah, I do agree. Maneuverability is not going to be the greatest on these things, most likely.
Yeah, I don't think it should be. I mean, its posture is like really forward facing, and I kind of like having sort of a blind spot on the right because it's like that ship isn't really intended to be going out and dogfighting. It's like really, I think, kind of designed to go after like larger targets and stuff. And I don't know. I think that kind of helps it a bit. That gives it a little bit of a, with that big gun, you got that advantage of being able to, if you get hit by that, you're going to be hurting. But
yeah. Oh,
yeah. You got to balance.
Yeah, and of course we know the Inferno's going to have that advanced armor. It's also got the missiles. The Ion's going to not have the advanced armor, but it's going to have attributes specific to itself with, more ability to maintain firing and things like that. I think they're going to be great ships either way, and I'm excited to see those ones in there. Of course, obviously the A2, we've talked about that numerous times. And the fact that I will probably end up with a level 5 crime stat pretty quick after I use the carpet bombs, because we will test those out. I want to be standing on the ground and Jasko, you're going to have to carpet bomb just so I can look up and watch the bomb come down on me.
Sure.
That's what I want to see. A Moab hit me in the face.
Okay. I'll make sure you got your med pens.
We won't press any crime stats on that one. So a lot of great things there to look forward to with those ships that they talked about in there. And of course, that brings us to the ship showdown. We talked about this last week. And actually, Jasko, you brought this up last week about the petition out there for the Argo Cargo. And they actually mentioned it in the Inside Star Citizen this week. As Jared said, people are fighting the power, trying to get the little tug that could. in there to be in the top 16. So definitely keep an eye out for that. And I honestly, I would vote for it. I think that's interesting that people are doing that. It's like we said last week. It's like the PTVs. People just love that little thing.
And voting starts next week, I think.
Yes. Yep. Voting does start. You can check out the RSI website for all the details on that. Keep an eye out for that voting because we know that come IAE, they always give free stuff out for the top 4 that make the best ship in the verse. And Jaysco, what we got with the weapons? They showed us a lot of weapons there on the sprint report.
So Jared walked through some images of 3 new electron damage. He said there were 3 new electron damage, but then he corrected the last one isn't electron damage. But anyway, new weapons from Volt. It's the SMG. They said that everybody loved it, so he expects that one to move forward pretty quickly. The LMG said still needs more work, so they're going to kind of do a little more tweaking, I guess, on the visuals, including the battery packs. And then didn't say whether or not the laser sniper rifle was moving forward, other than it wasn't electron damage. It was just a laser sniper rifle, but also from Volt.
Right.
So we'll at least have a what do you call it? A Star Wars version of an SMG instead of using ballistics. And then he went on to start talking about the laser trip mines, which actually I just noticed is on the roadmap for, I think, 316 or 317.
Yep.
It's on 316. It showed visuals of folks clearing the laser mines out in like a puzzle. That's where they're going to be implemented first, but they will be coming to players eventually. And he was speculating on the expert level of trolling that will occur once that happens.
Yeah, I don't think we're going to get past the trolling.
I was just thinking that you could put them around like what do you call it, the pads at like Orlosar or
Yeah, but here's the thing. I just sneak up with that little tractor beam and then move it right behind your seat.
Yeah, they did show in the video that he was moving things with the tractor beam into their path to explode them and all that. And I think that's where we're going to see it come into the puzzles and all that. Is that in other games, whether it be Destiny or other ones like that, you can shoot these type of mines and explode them from a distance and all that. I don't think you're going to just be able to shoot these. I think you're going to have to put something in its path. And it didn't appear from the visuals that they showed that this is going to be something that's easy to just sprint through and run past and you're going to be fine. It didn't look like it was going to be that type of laser trip mine. If you try to sprint through it, you're going to die.
The guy in the video did take damage, even though he was quite a ways away.
I think this might even be the first step towards those breaching charges that we've seen. So I think this is a great thing to get into the game if we can move forward with getting the items such as the breaching charges to be able to breach into ships and such. So,
and I think the technology to make those work, I think, is the cutting tier 2, which is in 317.
Yeah.
That will allow you to start cutting holes. Apparently, they call it freeform cutting.
Obviously, the electron damage weapons, I'm actually looking forward to. I was really disappointed by the Aztec arms. They toted that, and when they were talking about it and the Star Citizen Live and all that, when those came out, it was going to be, kind of Star Warsy, and you could set to stun or you could set to kill. Then it comes out, and the only option is kill.
So to me, the new Volt weapons are a bit of a disappointment. They are kind of just like any other gun. They just shoot projectiles, right? They just look different. I was really hoping for something new, like an actual, electrical arc that's constantly going as long as you hold the trigger, or maybe even a beam weapon someday. Something new, something different.
Oh, so you mean like pull the trigger and you, kind of like the tractor beam, you just have an electrical arc constantly flowing from the barrel.
And then maybe it arcs out, and if you're within range, it'll kind of grab onto a person, and if there might be multiple opponents in front of you, and maybe that's the downside of that weapon, is that you can't be very accurate with it. But I think that would be a much more fun thing to add in, rather than just another gun that just shoots another projectile that just looks a little bit different.
I was just going to say, I thought that was one of the intended features of, it wasn't the Volt, it was the other one that you were talking about.
Yeah, I was just going to mention that not everything you mentioned, it wasn't going to be a constant beam coming from the barrel, but kind of like what you mentioned with, if you have multiple enemies in front of you, you could hit the first one, it would chain through them, and that was the original concept of the Aztecs.
I think it'll come back once they continue to flesh out bounty hunting, so that you have non-lethal means to subdue a target.
Yeah, I think I mean, specifically around like the Volt, and the electronic damage weapons, I think that's kind of like, I agree with Bright. I mean, I think it's sort of like, it seems sort of like a rehash of the existing mechanics and stuff. But like one of the things I think would be really interesting with it is, yeah, I can kind of turn it more into like an area effect type of weapon.
Yeah.
But it's just, from opponent to opponent, which it's a little bit different than like just a blast radius.
Yeah.
So like going to reverse or things like that, right? But yeah, that kind of gives you an interesting mechanic. So I mean, it's about choices in the game, and like you're gonna kind of equip yourself with the weapons, the limited number of weapons you can have, based upon kind of the style of play that you want to do, and that would be an interesting style for me.
Oh yeah, definitely. So then after that, they went on to some information on Orison there, and J-Scale, why don't you tell us about that?
Orison. So this is the second round of Orison. They implemented it in 3.14, and they weren't able to put everything in that they wanted to. So they've done another lighting pass. They've done audio to add more ambiance and give it a increase that feel when you're there. They're working on the Crusader showroom, which a lot of us were looking forward to in the first iteration of it. They're going to have, they've been playing around with. If you've been to Orison right now in 3.14, you've seen the cutaway of the exploding engine where it breaks apart.
Yep.
They're doing the same thing. They're testing around doing the Moab and Hercules cockpit as ideas. They didn't say that they were in yet, but they did show visuals of it, which were pretty cool. Then there was Cousin Crow's custom craft. That's the custom outfit ship, custom ship outfitter. It's going to be on the underside of some of the platforms, and they're going to support a bunch of different customizations, paints, components, room modules, a whole bunch more. It won't all be available in 3.15 right out the gate. Obviously, the room modules won't be there, but I'm wondering are we not going to be able to do it ourselves anymore? Like, are we not going to be able to change paints using the vehicle manager app anymore? Like, do the components when they put this in?
I would have to imagine that it may change to where you have to go to a vendor to do it, but obviously, if they do that, for those that don't pledge for paints and they want to get them at one location, it may centralize one location where they can get all the paints and don't have to travel around to the different areas to hopefully have a Retaliator paint here, an Avenger paint there. They got 2 Arrow paints at Port Olisar. It may centralize for those that want to buy in-game into one location.
Could. That makes sense.
Because
they also mentioned...
Well, I was going to say, because of course with the physicalized inventory, we know that if you have a certain component that you want to ship, you can take your ship to your persistent hangar and you can equip that as long as that component is there. So you're still going to have some capabilities of self-customizing based on the components that you go out and buy yourself.
True. Or are they going to sell components that you can only get from Cousin Crow, excuse me.
Yeah.
So from my point of view, I really think this is an opportunity that they can add more reputation bonuses. You know how when you go and do work for Crusader, right now the only bonus is we'll give you a little extra percentage of money when you do the mission.
Mm-hmm.
But I'd like to see the opportunity to maybe have a special landing pad that you can access that's easier or faster or something, or maybe with the Cousin Crows, they give you access to some other more exclusive stuff like special Crusader only paint jobs or whatever for doing work for Crusader.
Yep. Or even bigger discounts.
Exactly. Yeah. And also I mentioned when in watching them talk about it, they did mention that some things would be kind of held back and wouldn't be available right away. And when they said that, I immediately thought on the 300 series, which currently as a backer, you can customize on the website yourself. And that does all the kind of things that Cousin Crow sounds like it wants to do.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And so I do wonder if they're probably not going to make those pledge options available in order to maintain that sort of pledge option and also to maintain the value that people have put into their pledge ships.
Yeah, as long as they give me my food processor, my coffee maker I got with my 300 series before they implement that, they can implement it. Still don't have those on my ship.
The room modules, I don't think are going to be in 3.15 either. They don't have modularity functioning yet, so I would expect room modules to wait until that comes, because what was it? The Retaliator's the first one that they were working on,
Yeah.
getting that sorted out for.
Yeah, my guess is we'd probably start with paints and components.
Yep.
To start out would probably be more than enough to start out with to flesh out any of the bugs or issues that they're going to have with that type of system.
Well, how long it'll take to fly down to Orison to even get it done?
And then find it.
And get out of there.
Yeah.
So other things that we saw throughout was auxiliary lighting, much like how Jay Skeld mentioned, they did a lighting pass on Orison. They did auxiliary lighting like in the Habs area, what I call sleep mode. You can now walk around your Habs, hit a switch, dim all the lights, you can go to sleep, log out, and you get a pleasant night's rest. Also, we had the window graphics, which is supposed to bring a little bit more realism into the cityscapes, where when the nighttime comes around, you're going to be able to see in the buildings different rooms that have lights on, be able to see the transparency through the glass, where rooms that don't have the lights on, it's going to be blacked out. And that's going to do more for the imitation of realism, just like what you see if you go downtown San Francisco or downtown LA or New York or whatever. The other thing that we saw was healing skeletons. Now, we're going to get into more of this next week because obviously they announced on the Star Citizen Live next week is going to be huge game-changing healing medical kind of coverage as far as where they're going with that. We've talked about it in the past, but this really looked interesting as far as the UI with the healing skeletons, the different type of injuries that you would have. You're going to see a 3D skeleton on the screen. You can self-treat your wounds on the med beds in the hospitals, and you're going to be able to pick what you want to fix, what you don't want to fix, and you're going to come out of there affected by whatever choices that you make, whether it be you're going to be a gimp or walk with, a limp or a lean to one side, whatever. It is only going to be available in the hospitals to start with, but eventually it is going to move over to the handheld tools and out into the field eventually. So I think this is going to be definitely very interesting, and hopefully they go way more in depth with it next week on the Star Citizen Live when they cover that healing information.
They better.
Yeah, I'm really anxious for the healing guns because I feel like that's a core sort of role that people can play on the ground. Not everyone wants to be a killer, but a lot of people would be fine to be with some killers if they're able to just do their healing and support,
Yep. No,
But I just want to say with the UI, though, when I saw that skeleton UI, I was thinking, oh, we need to have parasites. You need to be able to see bugs under your skin, crawling toward your bones. Exactly. That's what I'm looking forward to.
Of course, you mentioned the healing guns, and we as we've come to find out that the way those healing guns are going to work is they're not going to fix you completely. They're going to get you to a point where you can get by until you get to a hospital and all that. And of course, they've talked about that being the same with the Cuddy Red.
Right, and that's definitely a good direction. We don't need it to be so cheap.
Yeah, definitely.
I just want the ability to overdose someone with my medical gun. That's all.
I was just gonna say, yeah, there should definitely be like side effects of some sort.
Oh, there will be.
Or if you treat somebody improperly that they're negatively affected, you can kill them if you give them the wrong treatment or something like that. Would definitely be interesting to see. And of course, that brought us into the cybernetics, which I want robot arms. I'm sorry, that looks freaking cool. They went through some of the concepts. This is nowhere near ready to go into the verse. It's still only in concept phase. They're looking at the cybernetic limbs, how it's going to interact with clothing, how it's going to interact with each character model. But a lot of the concepts that they had really look cool. And I think the thing that I really enjoy is it's not one concept. It's concepts based on, are you a pirate? Are you on Crusader? Are you out at New Babbage, or if you're out at Portals or any of these other areas? The limb was kind of geared towards that style of the location it was going to be at, and you could tell that by, the three-fingered arm for that looked like it was held together by duct tape, much like many of our Drake ships, or obviously the pirate peg leg was seen on those concept things, and none of these are set in stone. These are ideas right now, but it looked amazing to me.
I just want some steampunk ones.
Yeah, there were definitely some steampunk ones that were definitely in there. And I will probably say my money is I will be the first person in the org that's going to have some kind of prosthetic limb because of the amount of times that I die.
Yeah, we're just gonna replace her head with a robotic head.
Can I be like on Futurama where I'm just a
I
head
was
in
just
a
gonna say.
jar?
Oh, that'd be beautiful.
Right? You can just put me on the dashboard of your 600i, and I'll get a little nameplate for me there, and I'll just be the head in the jar.
Just give you a little shake every once in a while. Make sure you're still alive in there.
Every once in a while, just pop an
You get the peg,
Alka-Seltzer in the
you should get a
fluid.
mechanic.
What's that, Mando?
I'm just saying, yeah, if you're getting the peg leg, you should get a mechanical pair.
I'd like to see maybe a gun arm instead of just a normal arm as an option, because I'd like the idea that some people will gear themselves to not ever really be a pilot. That some people will just be like the ground merc that you take with you places,
Or
and like he's got the gun arm, but he can't pilot. You know,
or maybe they can make it interchangeable.
right? Exactly.
So that brings us into the Star Citizen Live. I mean, definitely some interesting information here. It was a little bit drawn out. Realistically, for anybody that still has to watch it, we'll sum up basically what the first 40 minutes is, and then the last 10 minutes had a lot of the more in-depth information. But the first portion was talking with, I can never say his name, Richard Trier.
Yeah.
About kind of the tier system. It's being looked at as kind of changing it out to be a more fluid system, in the fact that, Squadron 42 is going to get the implementation of the feature, get it all fleshed out, get it all set, and then put it into the PU. There's not going to be any more T0, T1, T2. There's not going to be these multiple tiers. That they're not going to be interdependent upon each other necessarily each and every time. And this is actually being fleshed out by the actor feature team, the actor tech team, weapon feature, weapon content. They're really focusing around this tier system with the character gameplay. And like I said, they'll introduce it into Squadron 42, flesh it all out, and then push it over to the PU. And there you go. You've got, your salvage, your ship-based salvage. And then as things progress, they'll just improve on what's already there without, all the different levels. It's not really supposed to impact the development cycle or speed, but in their words, that should allow for faster movement into the PU on many different things.
I think also one of the big reasons for this whole change that they highlighted was that certain things would get added and there's no content around it. Like when they added in the push carts, and there's nothing to do with the push carts. They got too much negative feedback, I believe, from that, and they decided, you know what, we should make each of these features a real fully featured kind of idea, and then move it over to the PU, and they'll do that in the squadron, of course.
Yeah, although I disagree with you with nothing to do with the push carts. You can sneak into a hangar, put it on somebody's ship without them knowing about it, and it will blow them up.
For me, I think this is a good change, and I think the tier system is what, as he was describing it, and as we've already discussed, was just there's no gameplay, or there's not always gameplay around the thing that they implement. So from a player experience perspective, who cares? I don't care that we can drag bodies. There's no point to it. It doesn't add to the game. It doesn't do anything right now. And if you look at other games that are alphas, when they release features, they are more polished. There is more to do with them. There are bugs because it's an alpha, but you can actually do something with it.
Yeah.
So that's the change. And one of the things that he said a couple times, Richard, is he's brought this up multiple times in their sprint reviews, in their meetings, saying it doesn't make sense to just dump these features into the PU without any kind of gameplay around them. No missions to support them, no anything like that. But I won't say that he sounded like he was upset, but he did mention it a few times. So it does tell me that he is feeling some heat, and he is trying to say, hey, we are trying to change things, but somebody's not allowing us. And I saw that in a couple of other videos as well. I think it was the US PU feature team, where one of those guys seemed a little irritated with the way things went with Ninetales and the scheduling and all that stuff around I forgot his name. The guy that wants to do all the AI stuff. Tony.
Yep.
So I think that there's some stuff going on behind the scenes that we're not privy to, and I think some of this stuff will shake out, and it will be better, I think, in the long run. But I don't know what it means in the near term, because they do have things on the release view that still say tier 0, tier 1, tier 2.
Yeah.
So their focus is getting Squadron 42 out the door. If anybody is not seeing that or hearing that, and they think that Star Citizen is the focus, it's not.
Yeah, and actually that's one point they made, is that this should help get Squadron 42 done and out the door faster.
Yeah. Rant over.
Yeah, because I mean, J Scale and I kind of had a little chat earlier and stuff, and I think we're kind of on the same page about it. It's like I think it's a positive move, because it seems like it's kind of frustrating when you get something that's like not that useful in game, when you're kind of surrounded by a whole bunch of other stuff that's just kind of broken, and I'd much rather see a feature come in that is like polished, that actually has some functionality around it, than just like, hey, there's a card, oh cool, what do I do with it?
Yeah.
It just doesn't seem like there's much of a value proposition behind it. And so I think that the nice thing about this approach is that it's like, I think the quality parts can be a little bit better for features coming forward.
Yeah,
that's the impression.
And,
fingers crossed, right?
Yeah, and I think I think I would be right in saying the biggest example of that anybody can look at in the game is the Reclaimer. You've got this massive, amazing ship that you can go out and fly, but has no purpose in the verse.
Well, the Herald too.
Yeah, definitely. The Herald will fall under that as well too. Herald is definitely a one-use ship. So, of course, that also brings us over to the FPS Radar and Scanning extension.
Basically, you can't talk about FPS radar scanning and ping without talking about kind of some way to visualize it. And so he did mention kind of a little bit of a mini map. He mentioned the ability to scan with your ship when you come into an area, and then when you exit the ship, you have all of that data still with you on your display, so that you can continue to track or whatever you're going to do with that information. He said they're replacing cross section when you go FPS, so it's IR, EM, and cross section for ships and vehicles, and then when you go first person, it's going to be IR. What was it? IR, EM, and decibels instead of a cross section. So the sound. So that'll be part of your stealth, is trying to be tiptoeing, get that heavy armor off and get into that Lamont's flight suit, and hopefully it doesn't,
Exactly. They give finally a purpose to wearing light armor, which is excellent.
Yep. And lower that scroll wheel on your mouse so you walk slower.
Yeah. Tiptoe along.
Of course, the part that kind of confuses me a little bit about it is like, if they're going to use decibels, then you need an atmosphere then, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much, because in space you're not going to have any sound because it can't travel, but on surfaces, depending on what the atmosphere is, will be the determining factor.
Right, yeah, so like most of the moons, going on to like derelict spaceships that have, doors open and things like that, it's probably not going to help too much there. Unless, did you mention, was there like a cross section on that also besides decibel?
Cross section was for ships and vehicles. They're replacing cross section when you're FPS with decibels. You won't have a cross section as a person, even though you technically do.
Red would be a good one for FPS too.
Yeah, and as far as like the decibels, like you were saying, Mando, you got to have an atmosphere, and as far as like the moons, in a lot of them, there's atmosphere. It's just not a breathable atmosphere. So those areas you will be able to have a little bit of sound. Of course, when you go into the bunkers and all that, you're definitely going to have sound because it's an oxygenated area. But I think you'd still be able to have sound in the moons that just don't have a breathable atmosphere.
And they may still do decibels in space, because they did talk about why spaceships make noise in space, and it was for the experience. They know it's not realistic, but it adds to the immersion.
Yeah.
Yeah, watching the Idris blow up versus hearing it and seeing it blow up are two different things.
Oh yeah, it wouldn't be anywhere near as fun if there was no sound with that.
Richard also went on to talk about EVA changes. They've been talking about this for quite some time. they're going to change out how EVA works finally, because I don't know about the rest of you, but EVAing in space is kind of painful. It's now going to behave more like an uncoupled astronaut, like today. Like if you're out in space and you're not tethered to anything, you push off and you're going to go floating off. They're going to add compressed inert gas for fuel. So you'll now have to worry about how much fuel you're using to spin around and do whatnot, but you will be decoupled. So you just give a burst and you'll go in whatever direction you burst in, and then you'll have to compensate and whatnot to slow down and move. They're going to add zero-G push and pull, which they've been talking about for a very long time. They've even got some videos of it.
Mm-hmm.
And then basically he summarized saying you'll have your jetpack, zero-G push and pull, and the tractor beam as your ways of moving in zero-G.
Yep.
There wasn't really anything else exciting on that one.
I'm really hoping that they give you some kind of like space break or something. Like there's so many opportunities or situations where you'll bang your head or something. Now you're flipping backwards, and if there's completely decoupled, you'll just be spinning, and it'll be very uncomfortable for the player.
Unless you give a burst in the opposite direction, I would think.
Right, but it's hard to calculate how much of the burst because now you're spinning the other way, or So I just hope that there's, just like on the ships, like you can hold a button to like slow down and stop.
Hopefully.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how they do that, or else we're gonna have a stream where you guys are just all standing around me as I bump my head, and everybody is just watching me go out of control and can't stop myself.
I'll do you one better, Dark. We're all gonna have tractor beams, and we're all just gonna constantly be adding more speed to you by just spinning you.
I was gonna say that's for Xenothreat. That's how I get from cargo ship to wreck and then back. Is I use the tractor beam like a grapple.
See, I always step out of the ship and somehow I end up doing like a 360-degree maneuver before being able to straighten myself out and go in the direction I want.
Yeah, the landings are great, especially when you injure yourself.
Well, these upcoming changes means that it's not going to be any easier to straighten yourself out now, Dark.
Oh, yeah.
Player interaction experience, which Jared started confusing me by referring to the personal inner thought system. It sounds like there might be some overlap and some crossing through, but basically Pi is your HUD. It's the HUD that when you're wandering around, you'll see blood drug levels coming in with I don't know if it's coming with 315 or not, but so that they'll add that down there next to your thirst and your hunger and your stamina and whatever else is down there. They're going to have hints pop up as well. I'm not really. He didn't go into what the hints are going to be. So speculate all you like. And then inventory screen changes. He went into some strange discussion around how if you're carrying one weapon and you've got a weapon on your back, a wheel will pop up, which is very reminiscent of the personal inner thought system to switch weapons very quickly or easily, I guess. And then down the road, they're gonna have physical lockers. And the way he described it was you can set up your armor and whatnot, your outfit, and you'll use that to save that configuration, because I don't know how many of you like a certain way that your armor looks, and then through different patches or whatever you've got to reset it all up and everything. So
yeah, and of course, I was going to say the hints that you mentioned, we already have hints available through the options menu, and I don't know anybody that keeps them on, so hopefully these will be more useful than what that option provides.
I was hoping it'd be more like, hey, it looks like you've exited your ship. You might want to activate your EVA system.
On your helmet, as Badger would say.
I'm hoping that those physical lockers he's talking about are not just things that are going to be in our halves and hangars, but also the ones that you see when you enter a station or when you come out of a hangar.
Yeah, I'm excited for the things that are on the ships, like the 600i, for example. In the cargo area, there are these little cubby holes where it's kind of clear, kind of obvious that those are going to be areas where you just kind of like store your spacesuit.
Yeah.
So I'd like to see those used, but also they're adding blood drug levels, right?
Don't forget your intoxication and
exactly.
your drinking, and
so
you can be drunk and you could not fly right.
So here's the question: are we going to have breathalyzers? Can I test somebody I'm hiring to get on my ship before they get on my ship?
See, that's what I asked when we first talked about the intoxication. I was like, am I going to be stopped by Hurston Security for a field sobriety test?
So you're gonna be like pulled out of quantum and tested for sobriety.
It's very possible.
I want an opportunity to walk the line because maybe I'm one of those skillful drunks, right? And I can move the mouse and like counter it enough that I make it, you know.
And the
It's not
other
gonna be a
thing,
line walk.
well,
It's gonna be
they,
EVA.
yeah. So definitely some very, very interesting things coming down with that. And we will have a org drunk night when they implement the drunkenness within game. We will all go out drinking at the bar at New Babbage, and then we will all take our ships out and see if we can fly the rings at Port Olisar. We'll see how that all turns out.
Well, and they are working on vendor behaviors, right?
Yep.
Bartenders is one of them.
Yep.
So maybe we'll actually be able to go to the bar and actually get a drink.
Yeah, and you could at different points, but I don't know if it's working right now because I haven't tried in so long.
Yeah, I gave up trying because the bartenders would never come over.
Yeah, and
I've gotten drinks. They like me.
well, when you hold a knife to their throat, yeah, they're going to. So this is actually the time of the month and all that. We also get the monthly PU report as well as the Squadron 42 report. Right now, Squadron 42 monthly report's gone out to everybody's emails. I think I mentioned at the beginning here that it's like a 4 or 5 page email with everything in depth in regards to Squadron 42. A lot of great information in there, a very lengthy read. So if you're a Squadron 42 diehard, then definitely check that out. It's well worth the read. But in regards to what we're seeing in the PU, we'll cover a couple of the points here on the monthly report for the PU. And what did that tell us there, Dayscale?
A lot. Sorry. So they went into ships and vehicles. This is one of the interesting things that I saw where they switched from ship to the word vehicle, and I'm wondering if they're working on 3 different vehicles as opposed to a number of ships, if that makes sense. So there's a brand new ship that they mentioned early in the year. It's complete. They said it was in the final task, creating additional paints. Then they talked about 2 unannounced vehicles. I don't know if that means it's a ship or an actual vehicle. Those are continuing through the pipeline. One completed gray box and approaching final art. The other is awaiting gray box. Again, the whole white box, gray box, all that whole pipeline is out there somewhere. I was looking for it earlier. I was going to suggest we maybe revisit that. And then there was another all new vehicle that is almost gray box complete, while the art for a variant was finished.
Yeah. So the white box being the first step, gray box being the second step before release. I mean, this could be a possible sign, and we may even find out some stuff at CitizenCon, but this could be a sign of something straight to flyable or drivable at IAE.
Yeah, I'm wondering if the yet to be announced ship is, since it's so close, I'm wondering if that's going to be something that's announced at CitizenCon, and then these other 3, if they're just at gray box, it's still going to take them a bit to finish them. They might talk about them, but I'm expecting them to make an appearance at IAE.
Yeah,
maybe a little before,
or at least up for sale in concept at that point.
Yeah, well, I would say the all new vehicle, but the 2 unannounced vehicles, the way they word all this stuff, I assume that means that there are 2 vehicles that we know about, like the Origin G12, the Lynx rover, those types of things.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the X1.
Yeah. Because there are a number of vehicles that are in concept, and we haven't heard anything about them.
BMM.
Not a vehicle.
I'm just saying. Technically, the BMM is a vehicle.
Inventory. They're focusing on polishing the player inventory and actor status feature. Sounds like this is getting really close, actually. Knickknacks is feature complete. Knickknacks is the asset manager. That's going to tell you where all your stuff is across the verse, whereas player inventory is going to be just what's kind of right there, local for you. Local inventory. So they're polishing Knickknacks with look and feel. That's actually the name of the app that'll be in your mobiGlass. So we'll be getting rid of the whatever it's called right now, where you see your paper doll.
Yep.
Work on the TDDs for cargo refactors going on. Shopping and selling should all be at review stage soon, which I don't know about you guys, but that's actually kind of exciting because hopefully it means it's coming.
Yeah, because you got to be able to sell whatever you get with loot generation, which is tier 0 with 315.
Yeah. So, and it sounds like the stuff that we'll have in 315, and we'll know more about this in 2 weeks, is the small stuff, the lootable stuff.
Yeah.
But we won't have like some of the major, we won't have the major bits, the big crates, and all the other things that they talked about before. They emphasize again, inventory is localized. It's going to be a big change. I was joking around about, your stuff is going to be where you are. So if you buy a power plant in New Babbage, but the ship that you want to put it on is in Lorville, you're going to have to fly your ship from Lorville to New Babbage, because as far as I know, there won't be a way to get it from New Babbage right now to Lorville. So you'll have to bring the ship to the parts.
Yep.
No more shopping trips around the verse with a list and just buying stuff.
Yeah.
Testing on 315 commenced prior to being. Oh, this is they created a new team. I forgot the name of the team. Player experience team. I forgot the name of it. Player relations live QA. That's what it was called.
Yeah.
That team just started. They're testing on 315 prior to it going to Evocati. They're also going to triage things that are reported to the issue council. Trying to think, was there anything else for those guys? Evocati, they've been cleaning house in the Evocati world. If you're if you've been inactive for a certain amount of period of time, they're booting you out, and they're trying to bring in new members so that they actually have an active Evocati group.
Yeah. And in regards to that, make sure, if you're active in the issue council process and you're out there playing on a regular basis and contributing and all that, they'll reach out to people via email to give, invitations to be Evocati. Of course, Evocati is that first round of testing, a lot of, NDAs, things like that, you can't, post anything that you are doing within the Evocati release. So it's a lot of paperwork that also goes into that, from what I've understood from other videos. But they will reach out to people that are very active in that environment to, invite you in to be a part of that group. So those of you that have been working on it, try and keep an eye on your emails. You never know when you might get one of those. All right, so other things that we saw in the PU monthly report, dynamic events, Jumptown 2. As I mentioned earlier, we saw this on a previous episode where they talked about that coming in as another dynamic event running for a couple hours at a time to emulate what happened with the original Jumptown without killing the economy. Hopefully, we're going to see some more information about this over at CitizenCon when that comes around on the October 9th. And of course, we also have the new assets and accessories for armor. And that's going to be probably, you're a little more read up on this, J-Scale, than me, so I'll let you take this one.
So they're replacing the Caldera Pembroke armor. That is, they said, for 315. I assume the rest of this stuff is also for 315. They've added backpacks. They're changing, or they're reworking existing armors that have backpacks, so the backpacks function. So those Grey Cat armor that we got, was it 314 or was it 313? Anyway,
yep.
The Grey Cat armors with the backpacks, where some people had the backpack disappear, some people kept it, whatever. Stuff like that. They're reworking those so that those backpacks actually function. They're also introducing 3 new backpacks from Clark Defense Systems and 1 from Doomsday. What was this other? Oh yeah, I just said that 315 onward. Each new armor set will come with a backpack in the same style. So backpack. It'll be a subscriber flare. It's coming. We'll get it in pink, purple, and orange.
And Dora the Explorer running around with the Star Kitten backpack.
There we go. Perfect. There has to be a Star Kitten, right? Because we've got Star Kitten armor.
I would hope so. So, and of course, we got the bombing features are in review stage. That's going to be for the A2. We saw some of that earlier with the Star Citizen Live from a few weeks ago, showing some of the work being done on the bombing. And of course, the Misc Hull A and Hull C. Hull A is close to being completed in white box, while the Hull C is currently being brought up to the gold standard. And actually, we also got the Misc Starfarer there, and we got the refueling arm is complete. We saw that in the video a few weeks ago with how that's going to operate using the Gladius in the video. They're also focusing on turning to the tractor beam assembly at the rear that forms part of the refining feature. So it looks like we are going to have a refining function on the Starfarer, and the question going to be, how are we going to decide which function you're going to be doing, whether it's going to be refueling, refining, how's that going to be defined and characterized in your setup. And J-Scale, we got some mobile NPC vendors going on out there.
So under AI character stuff, they were talking about some NPC vendors for buying and selling. It'll be apparently a mobile dude, chick, whatever, walking around. They'll buy, sell one-handed items, and if you want to buy, sell two-handed items, there'll be a shop that NPC owns nearby, and you'll be directed to the shop.
Okay.
I noticed they used the term dealer in the text, which made me excited.
They were they did reference illegal goods as well in some of the stuff that they were talking about. So.
And of course, this is actually exciting news for a number of people that I talked to there, and this has a lot of potential for great use. Blind quantum jumps.
Yeah, very exciting, actually.
I mean, especially if you look at the impact it's going to have, where if you're trying to get out of a situation where you're being attacked by pirates, or you're a pirate and you're trying to get out of a situation where you're being attacked by NPC security, you won't have to worry about lining up on a station, a planet, or something like that to get into quantum and get out of the area. You'll just be able to spool up and activate. Now, what kind of delay there's going to be in that, it will be interesting to see how they develop that, but that is in the works, which I think is going to be a great tool to have on many different levels for different activities throughout the verse. And of course, as we mentioned, preparations for CitizenCon 2951, which is going to be on October 9th. So that's going to be all digital. You'll be able to check in and see all that. They are filming content for it right now. So I'll definitely be trying to get in and take a look at that and try to make some videos off of what they present there. So that should be interesting. And for the most part, that's what I've grabbed from the PU monthly report. But Bright, you brought up something additional that you found interesting. I know J-Scale also brought it up as well too. So
yeah, let me jump in for a couple of things. I noticed a few things that really caught my eye. I know we're short on time. One was that they've apparently already developed a feature which allows a player to form an AI formation with AI ships. And that's, of course, meant for Squadron 42 first and foremost. But they did say it should be available in the PU in the future. And so that's a very exciting piece of the puzzle. Real quick, they're adding animations for using illegal goods in Pyros, which, excites me. And then there's two engine things I just really wanted to touch on that I think are kind of really interesting. One is that they said the next focus was optimizing the entity unloading stalls plaguing the PU, which is kind of like an insider view into what is causing a lot of slowdowns and problems in the PU servers, is that they're having trouble with actually unloading entities that don't need to stay loaded. And then they also mentioned they're doing multiple optimizations in the spatial culling system, which is used for the eventual server meshing. And for those who don't know, culling, in general, when you play a video game, the things that are outside of what you can visually see are not rendered by the computer in order to save time. At least a lot of games make use of that technology. And this, of course, is important because when you are transferring between servers, the game needs to determine, all right, what of this data, is important to bring over, because if they bring over too much data, then there's going to be weird lag problems. And if they bring over too little data, then you might, see something behind you, and then you look back and it's gone because you've just moved over servers and that data didn't get pulled. So very, very interesting stuff they're working on there.
I would imagine that plays into those new graphic settings that they put in with the spatial tessellation and the rendering of the graphic distance.
I'm sure that ties in. And of course, the things that are closer to you are things that they're not going to want to cull, that are going to come with you. And things that are much farther away, they're going to consider junk data.
Yeah, and they with the culling, they also had a little bit in there about what do they call it? Basically NPC, not culling, but if there's an NPC out there in the middle of space and nobody's there to witness it, they're going to phase it out into another virtual reality where it continues to exist but doesn't actually exist in the PU.
So if a tree falls in the wood and there's nobody around to hear it, then did it really fall?
Pretty much.
Yeah, but it'll be unloaded, like he says. It still exists. It did fall,
It's just
but it
not
was unloaded.
taxing.
Yeah,
It's just not taxing the system as much as it would if it maintained it.
exactly.
Yeah.
Thankfully.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that, especially moving towards server meshing, I think that's definitely going to be very interesting and hopefully helpful to the way everything runs. Because obviously, with server meshing, there goes your 50-person maximum on the server. And, any kind of lag and interaction that you can weed out that you don't need is only going to help things run better.
So you just real quick, a funny comment that was in the PU monthly report was they had a quote around some testing that they were doing, some more funny bugs that they had. One of them was when they were trying to loot a body. It opened up inventory to see all the ships and all the ship components and everything, like you opened up a magical portal into this person's inventory. And the other one was when they were lowering a bed down to load a gurney to load a patient onto it. Apparently the gurney started kicking and bouncing around and killed everybody that was around it.
Oh, so it's like the carts.
Well, so I was thinking, like, if they're gonna have vanishing NPCs to save on memory, like you'll fly into the area where the NPC exists but isn't currently in, manifested in that space, and all of a sudden it'll appear in front of you like Q from the Star Trek or something. Just
Yeah, only in this case it'll be a gurney and it kills you.
yeah.
So does this bring up a new sporting event, trolley versus gurney, in the outskirts of Orison or Hurston?
Yeah, in the blood sands of the arena.
There you go.
There we go. We'll just fill the A2 with gurneys and trolleys and do bomb runs with that.
Oh, and don't forget the ship ramps that kill you.
Oh yeah.
And the best part of bombing with gurneys is that they're not a weapon, so you can do it over a spaceport.
No crime stat.
Yep.
All right. So, Mando, you got anything else to add, sir?
I do not. Thank you very much for inviting me.
I appreciate you being here. And Bright, thank you very much for joining as well, too. I'm glad I was able to get you two on. And J-Scale, thank you for all the work that you put into everything as usual. I greatly appreciate that. And of course, I want to thank our viewers for joining us. I know this one is probably going to run a little bit long, but there was a lot of information this week. I hope everybody found it useful. Don't forget, also hit that like and subscribe button. Check out our streams every Wednesday and Sunday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. We definitely love to interact with you guys, so there's always a way that you can get questions over to us. We'd love to do a question and answer period with our viewers. You can use the community page on YouTube or send me whispers on Twitch, or you can also hit me up on Instagram and Twitter, which the links are on the YouTube page, as well as email directly at darkhourexperience@gmail.com. We'd love to hear from you guys. Get some of these guys from Amarok's Fang, like Bright and Mando, and some of our past guests, like PV, who specializes in the Spectrum Help Desk and bugs. Give them the ability to answer questions and help you guys out. So we'd love to hear from you. Send those on in to us. We'll put that into a future segment. But that's going to be it for this week. Thank everybody again for checking it out. And I thank you guys again for joining in. And we will catch you next week with all the updated medical and healing info that comes out during that time. Until then, everybody be safe and have a great night.